40-year-long Dungeons
Remember that
and
game of
Dragons
D&D
game?
you started when you were 11? What if it never stopped?
My name is Robert Wardoff. I'm a history professor at the University of Western Ontario. I am a dungeon master for a campaign that has been going on for 40 years.
What began in secret with a few friends has turned into a game that takes up much of Robert's life and most
If
of
you
his
want to
house.
post self-promotion,
Robert has around
just do it in my
30,000
Discord.
hand-painted figurines, countless custom-made pieces of terrain, and dozens of devoted players taking part in his campaign.
If you're going to keep
Dude, that's kind of fucking cool. Like, that's kind of epic. That's actually
game
really
going
fucking
for 40
cool.
years, it's going to have to be a good game. If you're going to have people who are going to want to play and are going to want to fly in, you're going to have to offer a product that is going to be better than all the other alternatives that are out there. I can certainly say with confidence that this is the best Dungeons & Dragons game in the world.
Why aren't they streaming this? What the fuck? Actual world building?
So if I'm playing for 10 hours a week at 52 weeks in a year, that means if I'm doing that times 40, that would be 20,800 hours.
How many minutes is that?
So if I figured that out in minutes, that would end up being 1.24 million minutes, I think. As you crest the ridge, there seems to be quite a commotion. You estimate it could be as many as 24 or so goblins.
Dude, what level are their characters though? Like what do you do? Like I wonder if he like refreshes levels or some shit. Like what do you do? Chad, I've played D&D before, man. Yeah, it turned into shit. Because of an unfortunate situation. Someone in the group, it was my first time playing D&D, and someone in the group didn't like me role-playing. As in, they didn't like me going into my character. And they were kind of like the just do the combat without actually role playing. Like I had so much fun playing the character. Like I had a specific voice for the character. Like my character was a bard that was what would you call it? It wasn't a giant. No, it was a giant. Was it a giant? I don't know. But it was a bard. No, wait, it wasn't a bard. It was a fuck, what do you call it? Not a bard. It was a marauder that wanted to be a bard. And it was whatever. It was the whole thing. And I loved it so much. And I made like a huge backstory for the character. And I had so much fun doing it. But one person in the group hated me because Barbarian. That's what I was thinking of. One person in the group hated me because I was playing the character a lot. I was doing a lot of the character stuff and like doing a lot of dialogue and playing the character. And it was very fun. But that person happened to be the wife of the dungeon master. So I ended up just cutting it and I stopped doing it. So share the character backstory. I wonder if I could find it, man. It was so good. Fuck, dude. I want to do D&D with like an actual dungeon, like with like a group of people who enjoy the role play, man. It's so fun. His name was Drath. Wait. Let me see. What was his name? I wonder if I still have my character sheet. What's the Dungeons and Dragons site? What's like the site that D&D Beyond? Yeah. Right? Do I still have my character? I wonder if I still have it. Writing a campaign in the Eberron setting. I have DM'd only once, but it's so much fun, dude. I wish I had more friends, man. so I could do D&D with him. Where the fuck is what do you mean? What did I log in with? Twitch? Oh, maybe I logged in with Twitch. Maybe that's what it was. Aha. Characters. Where's Thrag? No, it's Drath Snag. That's what his name was. And I had another character named Durkle Wimpyfinger. Yeah, he was a Goliath who was a bard. That's what it was. He was a Goliath who was a bard. But he basically used to be the strongest in his group. But he didn't want to be that anymore. He wanted to be a musician. I had such a good backstory. Okay. Anyway, moving on. I miss doing it.
You surprise them as much as they have surprised you. I need a surprise roll.
That's really...
And also, he's really bad at... I forgot about this. He's really bad at playing music. So basically, he's the strongest in his old village. And he basically was like a person that you hire to like slaughter people. And he decided after his brother died that he wants to go to music because he found a passion for music, but he's absolutely garbage at it. So he goes around and he always wants to play music for people, but they never want to hear it. It's man, I miss doing it.
Really just the start. Almost every major decision in Robert's life is designed to keep the game going.
When I was buying a house, the most important part for me was getting a gaming space that I could use. My entire basement is my gaming area.
If he doesn't slow down, he's going to need a bigger house.
I have a lot of figs. I've got orcs, I've got elves, I've got dwarves, I've got all the basic things that you'd expect, but I also have very distinct and unique figs. I have vampires, I have undead, I have zombies, I have werewolves, beholders. Tiamat, the mother of all dragons, all the big demonic lords from the Demogorgon. The Demogorgon! We're deep. But also heroes. So all the great kings and queens of countries, the high-level wizards, all of these things. My goal is to have everything.
But what's the point of having so many figurines if you don't have any amazing terrain to place them on? Robert has no shortage in that department either.
I need to be able to adapt to wherever the party's going to go. That means that I need to have my green terrains. I need to have mountain terrain. I need to have all of my winter terrain, my arid desert terrains, my water terrains. If they're going to go into a town, now I need a town, okay, are they in a Roman town? Are they in an Anglo-Saxon town? Are they in an African town? Is it high medieval? Is it low medieval? So now I'm trying to be able to put out a village or a town for every one of these.
I want this guy to be my DM. What the fuck? Dude, I want to play D&D with this guy.
Settings.
What the fuck? He's his Colosseum?
I can't put figurines on the table unless they are painted up to a certain level. That means that someone's got to do a heck of a lot of painting. And so that ends up being me. If you found me on an average day working on the game, you'd probably see me in my painting room, and I'm going to be spending 2, 3, 4 hours painting figs.
And do people take their figs home?
No, nobody is allowed to take their figurines home. Nobody is actually allowed to touch the figs on the table. So that's also something that would be different. A person who played Dungeons & Dragons would probably come to my table and they would immediately reach over to grab their fig. I'm probably going to growl at them and tell them, don't touch the figs because I have to move everything. I'm sure my critics would say that there's a god complex going on about that. This here is the figurine of the demon lord Orcus. It's well known to Dungeons & Dragons. Sick, and in my campaign, 100 years ago, which would be in actual time something like maybe 1989, the group banished this demon. So they thought that's fine. Only recently, last year actually, the demon's back. They don't know where he is. They're desperately trying to find him, and he's definitely up to no good.
While fantasy role-playing and
God,
nerd
so
culture
cool.
are often celebrated today, Robert's
DM
campaign
rules,
started
fair
during
enough,
a
yeah.
time when people felt like they
That's a
needed to play
museum
in
right
secret.
there, yeah.
In the 80s and 90s, it was certainly more difficult to try to talk about or explain the game to people. I grew up in a very small town, and it was quite a conservative town. And so the town inevitably found out that we were playing, and they didn't know what the heck we were doing. And Dungeons & Dragons had very bad press at the time.
Dude, D&D, oh man, D&D I'm sure back then was like absolute stigmatized to hell. I mean, it's still kind of stigmatized, but not as much. Dude, like the whole nerd thing of D&D, dude, it's so fun. Anyone who's never played D&D, it's no joke the funnest game. The funnest, like, I guess you could call it board game or fantasy game that you could play. Because it's literally, you could do anything.
Time.
Thank churches for that. True. Yeah, true. I mean, you can say that for a lot of things.
We begin with a story about make-believe adventure and real-life violence, and what some critics fear is a connection between the two in a game called Dungeons and Dragons.
A movie came out while we were playing called Mazes and Monsters, and it's a story of how they play this game and then they try to act it out in real life, and basically bad things certainly happen.
Can you tell me of the giant dragon? On my travels here, I heard him.
What's now called the Satanic Panic was going on at the time. Why does my son want to play this?
Honestly, did it ever leave? They just replaced D&D with video games? No. Oh, you mean the stigma? I guess, yeah. I thought you meant like D&D is like video games now. Because nothing's like D&D. Like literally nothing's like D&D.
Game all the time. Why is he obsessed about it? What are you doing to him? Are you a cult leader? I got called a cult leader, a communist, like all these crazy labels. When I watched Stranger Things, it obviously hit home for me.
Dude, they're so hungry to call people communists.
What is it? What if it's the Demogorgon? Oh Jesus, we're so screwed if it's the Demogorgon.
It's not the Demogorgon.
The whole concept matched exactly what we were doing in the early 1980s.
Over the following decades, Robert went on to build a campaign of unrivaled complexity.
One of the things that makes my game unique is the story and the depth of the campaign. My world is an alternative fantasy version of historical Earth with then other historical aspects added to it. So if somebody comes in and they want to go to Athens, I can now bring in that history, philosophy, religion into the game. I'm able to create when I need to create, come up with totally new races, totally new nations, totally new cultures, totally new mythologies, but also to use what the world already has.
A typical dungeon master curates the quest for a handful of players over the course of a few months. Robert, meanwhile, is tracking the adventures.
Dude, being a DM is hard,
of more
man.
than 50 players, with story
D&D
arcs
is
that often
literally
span
communism.
decades.
Dude, it's the opposite.
Since the beginning, there's probably been about 500 characters
opposite
that have been made
the fuck.
and played within the game. When a new player comes in,
communism.
I'm inviting them to play a game.
You know,
that
depending
they're
on
going to be
what the
welcome to
campaign
keep
is.
playing until I die. So you could start a character, 9 generations later, that family could take over, let's say, the Roman Empire. On one level, you're playing that individual character. On a macro level, you're also controlling the Roman Empire. So there are numerous story arcs that are going on. Many of those last for generations. There's love stories, romances, there's quests, there's vengeance. All these things are happening. So even though there is this large campaign quest, this large ultimate goal, you've got literally thousands of subplots and sub-campaigns going on. So you're a good thing?
From the beginning, Robert quickly learned which rules could be bent and which rules could be broken.
When we started playing, there was probably a short period of time when I played according to the actual rules, but after that I had to fill in holes, and so I developed my own rule system, and I've never really gone back. So I have what gamers would call a homebrew rule system.
Man.
And actually that's how the game was intended. When the game first came out, one of the lines
Bad
in the
players
Dungeon Master
definitely
Guide
ruin
told
the game. DMs called those murder hobos. Yeah, murder hobos are not fun. If you guys don't know what murder hobos are, it's basically people who play D&D and literally just murder people. Like that. There's say it's an NPC that has so much dialogue that you have ready for as a DM, and then the players are just like, you know what, kill him. Let's just kill him. Let's kill that guy. And you know, you gotta have a good group of people in order to have a good game of D&D.
Told you that these are a set of rules, but to apply these loosely. And within my game and my world, there are all kinds of different aspects that you wouldn't see in an ordinary Dungeons & Dragons rule system. My rules are fast, they're quick flowing, people don't have to stop and check things, and that speed of gameplay is something that I find so different in my game from ordinary Dungeons & Dragons.
Robert strives to keep the stakes as high as possible for his players, especially when it comes to life and death consequences for their characters.
I want death to mean something. I don't want this to be like a video game that you simply hit the reset button and you're just going to start a new character. So when your character dies, if you don't have any other characters, then you're out of the game. The game's over for you. And so when characters die or bad things happen, I have seen grown men weep at the table. And that's something also, people who don't play are a bit disturbed if they hear that somebody who's been playing a character for a long time weeps at the table. But I'm trying to create emotion. I'm trying to create excitement. People are scared.
That means
and knowing that if you die, you could be out of the game, or that character that you put so much time in is now dead. Obviously, people's heart rates are up. There's emotion going on. So I can't be shocked and surprised when that character dies.
I had a character who drank everything, good or bad. I would 100% cry too. Dude, if my character died, I would fucking, like, literally just making a little backstory for your character and start giving that character personality, it's hard to not, like, have a really strong connection with that character.
I have one daughter, and ever since she was a baby, she's been around this. I think maybe when she was 6 or 7 was the first time when she asked whether she could play. So she created a character as a fairy, and she still plays now. She's 20 years old. I mean, obviously, there's other stuff going on in her life, but she's been playing all the way through. The interesting thing happens when she starts dating, and then her boyfriend wants to play. And of course, I have to tell her straight off the go, now, this relationship may not last forever, but the game's gonna last forever. So get ready, because I'm anticipating a situation when you break up with him, I can't break up with him. So once I allow somebody to come into the game, I'm never ever gonna stop them from playing the game. So sure enough, that situation happened. And so it can be a little bit awkward at times. But it means a lot to be able to have my daughter play the game and to have her interested in the game. And she obviously knows what the game means to me, for sure. I think there's an assumption that at some point we're all going to grow up and we're going to stop playing games. And so people always say, how does your game end? How's it going to end? And it's like, well, my answer is always, how does the world end? How is your world going to end? Well, it's probably going to end when I die. Well, for you it is, right? And so the answer is largely the same. It's much like life.
Yeah, I mean, that's D&D, dude, that's why I say D&D is fucking cool, man. It's literally just like a second life, man. You know, depending on how long your campaign is. And your characters can go over to different campaigns, too.
Now it's time to walk away. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Did you laugh or cry or maybe subscribed? I'll thank you either way. You know I will miss you. I hope you return. Tell your friend or your mother to get me more views, please.